Thank you. What a warm welcome. I hope I can live up to the expectations here. Expectations are set pretty high. Thanks for that. I'm going to talk with you about the competitive advantage of specialists, on what we can do together if we focus on talents that are very much unused in our society today. So what I'm going through with you today is to talk about my idea of changing the world based on a very personal experience. And the idea has been assessed by Ashoka, which is a wonderful network of social entrepreneurs. I'm very happy to have become a member and have been so lucky to take part in the program for the Ashoka Fellows Most Ready for Globalization. I'm going to talk about our case in Denmark, where we have 7 years of experience assessing, training, educating, employing people on the autistic spectrum. We call it specialisterne. That's part of being an unreasonable man, insisting to teach the whole world to say specialisterne. Sometimes it's hard to find someone who wants to introduce me as a speaker. Thorkil Sonne from Specialisterne Denmark. But specialisterne is Danish for the specialists, the alternative to the generalists who have all the favors in the labor market as of today in Denmark and in very many other countries in this world. Based on the experiences from specialisterne, I've set out on a mission to try to make a global impact. I've founded a not-for-profit Specialist People Foundation with the aim of enabling 1 million jobs for what I call specialist people, being people who have resources, who have a business potential, but cannot use their potential without a special understanding and support that we have developed from Specialisterne. I'm in contact with people in more than 60 countries, and I'm really happy to be here in Singapore. I was here, I think it was 2 years ago, visiting Denise Pur from the Past Life School. I had a stopover on the way to Australia, and I'm really fascinated by the school, about the Singapore community, which is pretty similar to Denmark in size and in focus on education and high-tech businesses. So that leads to the talk I hope we'll have a lot of today in the panel about local impact. How can our experiences from Denmark and other locations be used here in Singapore to make an impact of the way we deal with the people that have so much trouble getting a foothold in the labor market today, even though they have resources? How can we make that transformation here in Singapore? But first, I have an exercise for you. You saw maybe that there were some logos of a seed of a flower. This is the flower. Do you recognize it? Anyone knows which flower it is? Yes? No? Dandelion, that's right. It's all over the place in Denmark in the springtime. Kids love it. Kids love the plant. They blow the seeds all over the place. They play with the plants. They feed the rabbits with the leaves of the plant. But as you grow older, it tends that you go from loving the plant to hating the plant. especially if you buy a house and buy a garden. Because in your garden, your lawn has to be as equally green as the neighbors, and only the flowers that you have decided are welcome in your flower bed. So this plant is very much regarded as a weed in Denmark. Garden owners spend a lot of efforts through the summer, half a year, to get rid of it. But there is a very smart guy in Denmark. He's a farmer. He grows dandelions because he knows that besides being a weed, it's actually one of the most valuable plants in the Danish nature. There are more iron in the leaves than in spinach. All part of the plant can be used for natural medicine, for nutrition, for brewing beer, making wine, tea, coffee, a lot of things. So it's a very productive and very valuable plant if you treat it right. What is a weed? A weed is a plant in an unwanted place. If you use the term weed, it doesn't say anything about the value of the plant. The plant is the same. It's up to us to decide, is this a weed, is this a herb? If you can take the plant from an unwanted place to a wanted place, it turns from a weed into a herb, and you can get access to the values. And the very powerful message is, it's up to you. It's up to every one of us to decide at what we see, is this a weed or is this a herb? In Denmark, when you read about autism in the papers, it's always about how costly it is. How many there have now been diagnosed with autism, putting pressure on the welfare system, putting pressure on special education, putting pressure on everything. It's very much the weed perspective. I'm a parent of a child with autism. I know autism from the herb perspective. And I want society to think about people with autism as potential herbs instead of just potential weeds. Instead of filling the papers with articles about how costly it is, that there are so many who do not fit in, they could start writing articles about how interesting it is that there are so many who are at the edges of what we define as normality, because this is really an interesting area for potential recruitment of people for our labor market, because we all love to talk about innovation. And a lot of innovation comes from the edges of normality. So if we can change the focus somehow to have a more herb angle to the discussion about all those people who do not fit in with our standards today, how can we change society? We can change society on the big scale. It's all up to us. We are the only ones who can make this decision to change from weed to herb perspective. And it's not just for people with autism. There are so many more people who do not fit in. We tend to label everyone who are different from the norm. Who decides the norm? I think that's a question I would like to put out in our society. The biggest group within the autistic spectrum, they have a mild form of autism. It's called Asperger syndrome. It was not defined as a disability until 1994. what happened in 1994? A signature was put on a paper with the result that now millions of people were defined as disabled. Previous to 1994, these people, they were maybe awkward, they were maybe special, but they were not disabled. Are we getting too rigid on requesting social skills all the time, regardless of the tasks, the jobs? Why do everyone have to be good team players, empathic, flexible, good at managing stress, good at selling their own ideas? There should be room for everyone in our society, not just those who fit with the standards of our society. That's what I'm advocating for. That's why I want to change this world. I want to involve every one of you. I want to go all over the globe and advocate for the herb perspective. Instead of talking about people with autism, I would like to talk about specialist people. These are some of our consultants, our employees as of today. They have been really wanting to get a job. They have not been able to do that. Just look in the papers, look at the job ads. Find a job ad that does not include the words flexibility, empathy, team player, maybe good at managing stress, love to take on new challenges, good at selling. There are no job ads that you can really seek if you do not fit into the norm. If you have autism, you typically have a good memory, a very structured mind. You have a flair for attention to details. Many actually have a passion for details. You love to work individually. You have very high pride in what you do, not who are your friends, but what you do. So I hope that one day there'll be ads in the papers seeking people who are not flexible, who are not empathic, who are not good team players, who are not good at managing stress, because there's so much value in these people. And if we can accommodate them in the labor market, we will get a lot of herbs into the labor market. One of the guys in the lower left corner, he has been unemployed for 24 years and 11 months. Now he works for us. Do a great job. I think he even worked for Cisco, did a great job for Cisco. At the bottom to the right is the guy, he takes the train 3 hours every day, each direction, in order to get to Specialisterne, to work, to be part of a group, to be part of our society. Just imagine what kind of dedication it takes. 6 hours of travel every day. That is how much he wants to be part of our labor market, part of our society. There are so many there who desperately need a job, who are capable, but who do not fit in anywhere. There are more men than women. The woman in the middle, she had her diagnosis as with Asperger's syndrome when she was in the late 20s. And she came through a process where when she got the diagnosis, then suddenly she noticed that the university where she studied archaeology did not want to send her out to excavations anymore. And she said, why? I've done that so many times. You've sent me out so many times before to excavations. Haven't I done a good job? Yes, then why don't you want to send me there anymore? Because now we know that you have a disability. And that can be dangerous. And what happens if you get a tantrum or whatever? So many experience that with the diagnosis comes, expectations go to the floor. And we have to change that as well. In Denmark, the traditional perception of handicap, that is, handicap, that's a defect in your brain or in your body that makes it hard or impossible for you to use this part of your brain or body. Then we have hundreds of labels we put on people. We have psychiatrists, we have doctors, we have psychologists who are experts in diagnosing people. And when they have their diagnosis, the case is closed. Well, in Denmark, we have a welfare model. You'll never starve. There'll be some money for you. But if you want to develop yourself, to make a career, you'll have a hard time finding someone who wants to invest in you. Because for what? The labor market won't let you in. But there are 130,000 people in Denmark who voluntarily took on a handicap. You find them at the golf clubs. In the golf club, a handicap is a special measurement of how much special consideration is needed for the individual to play along the best in the clubs. You're expected to practice, to improve yourself all the time, but as a reward, you get to play along the best in the club. Take part in tournaments, play on fair conditions with the others. If we can just make society use the terms of handicap from the golf clubs instead of the traditional way of seeing handicap, then we can make a change as well. I'm not trying to say that it's easy. We know that those who are parents, those who are working with these people, but we have to start to think differently. And the professionals, the parents, will make sure to support what we're doing with the knowledge so that they can perform in the labor market, in the schools, in the education system, at universities, by being given the needed support and understanding in order to excel.